right. Good evening. Welcome everyone to the October 10th Town of Gray Planning Board meeting. I will call the meeting to order here at just after 7 p.m. First up is roll call. Melinda.
Present.
Shenya.
Present.
And I'm Dan Cobb, also present.
What do I talk into?
It's a big,
It would be that, the way you said it now, it would be that small. Yep.
It's really
there you go.
Okay.
Okay, next up are minutes approval. This is approval of the September 12th meeting. Does anyone have any comments or corrections to those minutes?
I did not. I move approval of the minutes as circulated.
Okay, and, oh, interesting. So Eugenia wasn't here.
Oh,
Yep.
oops, well, we should
And
correct that.
I just saw a list of presents, and then I realized that his name was missing as excused, which I'm used to seeing it that way. Is that something new in the software, or just we did it different?
I will double check with Claire. We'll get it updated.
So anyways,
Mhm.
Eugenia was excused, one way or the other, so.
I wouldn't normally be on there.
What's that?
I wouldn't normally be on there, I don't think.
Right.
Well, there's that too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think she put
That's another good, so that may have been,
both of us.
yeah.
I'd like to amend my motion.
Okay. You want to make a correction?
I would like to move approval of the minutes as amended to reflect Dan Cobb's removal as being present. Since
Oh, I was present.
Oh, I'm sorry. Dan McGuire. Wrong Dan. Correction. Dan McGuire. And addition of a reference to having Janya excused.
All right. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? All right, that unanimously passes. Okay, information exchange. I think Kristen had some things here.
Yes. Get your vote down. Okay. So for the information exchange, there was some discussion at the last meeting regarding paving in subdivisions, and I did do some more research on that. The existing language does require completion of all prior phase improvements before the next phase is to be pursued in a phased subdivision. So that is language that does exist. It's just a matter of maybe perhaps adding some clarifying language in some other sections so that it's flagged more. That one like went through as a whole. But phase projects are supposed to be by phase, so that language does exist, so I don't think it's something the board needs to address at this point. It may be something we bring up as a minor ordinance amendment for consideration in the future. We had sent out, we got a notice from the Wyndham Planning Board that I sent out to the planning board members regarding a project on the town line, the Crossridge subdivision that was approved on October 7. And it does include a right-of-way to a property in Gray, and that does have a restriction for a single-family home only. So we have noted that in our files with the code enforcement office as well, that there is that caveat should they become looking for a building permit, and any other changes would need further review, likely a joint board level of review. And I did speak with their planner and the engineers on this project as well.
Mhm.
The lot in Gray is not a lot that's shown on the subdivision plan. So they did not move it forward as a joint review, but that right-of-way does potentially give access. So we did follow up with that, and we do have that flagged for the code department.
Perfect, thanks.
And third thing was just a reminder that since we are down to 3 members again, we do need all of you to have a meeting. So if there's a time where you're not going to be able to make it, just that sooner you can let me know, that would be great. And that the remote participation is always an option too, if you can't be here physically but could tune in, so we could still do the meeting. That would be ideal.
Sounds good.
I have a question
Sure.
related to that. When I did a planning board training a few months ago, there was mentioned at that when you have, sort of your bare minimum of a board, that in order to have a quorum, that everyone present must be in favor, so that you can't have a majority. And I think we talked about this a while ago. I just want to be refreshed as to the rules. And my recollection is the instructor said it depends on your ordinance as to whether or not your quorum that you need for approval, if you need everyone present, like your entirety of your quorum to be in agreement, or whether or not a majority of the quorum is sufficient for an approval, and I'm not recalling. I don't.
So our standard practice has always been a majority.
Right.
We've never said that, oh, there's only 4 people here, so a vote needs to be 3 to 1.
Yeah.
We've never done that, so.
Okay.
I did get a legal opinion on that.
Okay, you
Following
did.
your question, I will look it up again. I
Okay.
don't want to misquote it and remember
Yeah.
it wrong, but I'll send it around again.
I mean, honestly, that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's what I would have expected, and that's
Right.
why it stuck in my head, and I was like, whoa, what? That was a surprise, so I'm hopeful that our ordinance supports our practice. Just wanted to double check.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing in the planning board rules that's specific to that, so
Okay.
I guess we could always add something to those rules if we wanted to, but standard practice has always been,
It makes sense
it's
to
a
me.
majority of those present,
Okay.
as opposed to fraction of the, full slate of 5.
Okay, thanks.
Yep. Anything else, Kristen?
No.
All right. Anybody else have any information? I've got one thing. I just saw yesterday that Doug Webster announced his retirement, so I did want to publicly thank and acknowledge him for that. I was hoping he might be here tonight, but I'm sure I'll see him before he goes off on his merry way, but worked with him a long time as a member of the planning board and have enjoyed his support and all the work that he's done for the town. So just wanted to send that appreciation on my and the board's behalf.
Echoed.
All right, and I'm sure we'll do it again when he actually goes out the door, but
Yes. Yeah, luckily we have a little time.
yeah. Yeah.
When does he announce that he's
I
leaving?
think it said on or before like the end of June or something like
Okay.
that, so. Yeah, so thank you, Doug. Okay, new business. Next up is zoning ordinance amendment, private solar energy systems. Town of Gray will host a public hearing on proposed amendments to the zoning ordinance to add private solar energy systems performance standards 402.6.12 and to amend the commercial solar energy systems overlay district 402.8.10 to allow animal grazing. Anything there, Kristen, that you wanted to tee up?
I think just as a kind of background, this was something the council had put on the list quite some time ago regarding putting some guidelines in place, particularly for setbacks and height of ground mounted. That was kind of the focus, but this does include some language that also relates to roof mounted as well. So it's just some basic standards for aesthetics and keeping kind of the nature of the neighborhoods. So they're not impacted by large units close to the road or close to abutters. It has that one change to the commercial. The bulk of this is for private solar energy systems, so it's related to a business or a home that wants to have solar panels serving their own home or business. There's that one change that's also noted as well to the commercial solar energy system sites, which are the larger ones that provide power off-site. To allow grazing, we did have some interest about having like less impactful management of the grass by maybe bringing in goats, sheep, grazing animals.
No goats.
So,
I mean, I had goats. Like they will be on the car, they will be a roof, the roof of the house, and the garage,
Yeah.
and they will be on the panels, obviously.
Yeah, right.
we don't get into which type of animal. I think we went around that. We had initially proposed language with that, but it doesn't at this point. So that's up to
Yeah.
the commercial solar site.
They'll discover it soon enough.
So yeah, that's what's proposed.
Okay, sounds good. So this is a public hearing, so I'll open the mic up for anyone from the public that wishes to speak on this. So if you could just step up to the podium and let us know your name, and happy to hear your comments.
My name is Joe Murray. I'm one of the trustees for the water board. And you just explained why. I saw Doug walking on the sidewalk without, he looked like he didn't have a care in the world. The water board, we reviewed the material that was presented at the workshop, council workshop regarding this amendment. And we had a few comments that we'd like to pass on to the council. We did that in the form of letter, but it's only just gone in and the council hasn't even had a chance to review it at all yet. So, our early discussion, we initially started thinking about what the possibility of battery backup systems might be installed in homes. It's kind of a popular thing to do now. And these are generally lead acid batteries and lithium ion and stuff like that. So we had some concern about that. Our superintendent contacted the CDC to see if we could get a little guidance. And what we got back from them was that they strongly recommend that solar panel systems not be allowed in the wellhead protection districts. So we reduced that to a letter, and that's part of the recommendation that we've made to the council. And so the specific recommendations, this amendment establishes a new line in the table of uses, of approved uses, and it lists all of the zones as being permitted. And we requested specifically that the wellhead zones, wellhead 1, wellhead 2, and BT2 be excluded from that allowance. That's the gist of our first letter. As I was saying earlier, we have another comment that we'd like to have considered, and that's in draft at the board right now, and is on its way to the council. And that's simply to add early in the ordinance a statement that says that these systems would not be permitted in the wellhead protection zones. Our thought there is that someone, a private owner doing due diligence might not, or probably would not, find that table of uses, and that would be the only place that would tell them that it would not be allowed. So we asked that a line be put in the front end that simply states that they would not be allowed in the wellhead protection districts. Be easier to find. Someone could easily spend time and money researching it, and only to find out later on that it wouldn't be allowed. So that is the second comment that's gone through. We, in the material, there was some discussion about there's a state statute that private citizens have a right to have solar systems, and that's a matter of law. But that does have exceptions, and it does allow exceptions for public health and safety. So it would be legitimate, I think, say, to not allow these solar systems in wellhead protection areas and not be in conflict with the state statutes. Well, that's pretty much what I have to say.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure thing.
I'm not following your logic or theory as to what the risk to the wellhead is
The CDC cites the
based on
potential
solar
for
panels.
toxic materials and chemicals in some solar panels. We've asked them to give us in writing something in writing about that comment. We don't have that yet, but as soon as we get it, we will forward it on to the council. But that's what the CDC is telling us.
So the concern is runoff from the panels themselves?
Yes.
Okay.
That's the sense we get from what we've got. It's a telephone conversation that our superintendent had with the CDC folks.
Okay.
We weren't even thinking about that either when we first started looking at it, that the panels themselves wouldn't be an issue, but I guess it turns out they could be.
Great, thank you.
Okay. Good.
Any other comments from the public? And I don't see any online, so I'll close the public hearing. Any comments from the board?
Yes.
Genya?
I live in the wellhead protection and I was looking to put the solar. So now you're saying that I can't do it anymore. And I consider it a discrimination. B, most of the solar arrays which is installed, like private one, they don't have any batteries. They work on net zero. So when you need, you take it from CMP, then when you don't need energy, you return it to CMP. So no batteries involved. Acid lead batteries, lead acid batteries, well, I saw very few of them. Mostly it's like lithium ion polymer batteries, you know, which is like Tesla Wall, for example. So completely different, they're completely sealed, they don't build up the pressure. I mean, they do inside, but they have like charcoal, which absorbs it and all that stuff. So it's much safer from my perspective. So, and again, the panels are sealed, completely sealed. If there is moisture will get into the panel, it will stop operating. So it will be discarded. So I really don't have concern. And if you will look how long it will take to wash anything out of the panels, like with the rains even, like it will take like hundreds of years, any measurable amount. So that's all I have to say.
Great, thank you. Linda?
My question was about the batteries and if there was the same concern, but you clarified in your statement that you're actually concerned just on panels alone. So, I mean, you have a concern and you voiced it. Those are not concerns that I have, but it's not my job to pass the law, so.
Yeah, I guess my comments would be along the lines of Jenya's. I think, you know, people should be allowed to do it. Certainly, the gentleman has cited some research that should be looked at by the council. It sounds important, but I have no data one way or the other to say whether it's accurate or valid or true or not true, but I would tend to think along the lines of Genya that these panels are glass coated and they have electronics inside, so I'm not sure what the risk is, but I don't think that they're not coated on the outside with things that are washing directly off. And you know, I think about other impervious surfaces like roofs, and I'm not sure that panels would be much different. But like I said, I don't have any data, and it's something the council should take the gentleman's citation and look into it and make an informed decision.
And we will. We may have to back the bus up. I think there is, we need to get more information, obviously. But I think a lot of people feel there's a distinction between storage and the panels themselves. So whether we allow panels but not storage, or those are things we'll have to sort out. If we make that kind of change, you'll see this again, because it's a substantive change, and we'll have to start the public hearing process over again.
And so I think storage can be done safely. I have an off-grid property with solar and lithium-ion storage, and it's a battery that's inside, and it's sealed in a compartment, and it's an engineered system.
And engineered systems fail, so we just
They
have to
do.
find out more information.
Yeah.
I mean, certainly if we want to be absolutely certain and safe, we want to protect our water resources, obviously, but we've got to find out what the risk factors are before we can really decide.
And there's 2 electric car charging stations right out there, and electric cars driving all around, and
Well, and
everything is a risk.
fuel trucks driving down the turnpike. I
Right.
mean,
Yeah.
there's all
Everything is a
kinds of
risk.
risks to the wellhead, but
Yeah.
we don't necessarily want to add more. And
Right.
the charging stations here aren't in the wellhead.
Yeah.
I also have a question regarding the wellhead distinction cuts across property lines. It doesn't follow property lines. So the other question I have is, you know, if someone's got half their property in the wellhead and not in the wellhead, how would that work? So there's a bunch of questions to pull apart here.
The other comment I had was with some of the setbacks, and I didn't dig too deeply into it, but they struck me as they should be considered a little more, I think. Like, I think the front setback was 30, like, to me, it depends, like, what someone's putting in. If it's low to the ground, if someone has an open field, say, adjacent to a road, what point does going back 30 feet do? It's like, there's no point to it, but then the side setback you had was 10 feet, and the panels could be 15 feet tall, and that's kind of, to me, could be quite an imposition on a neighbor if they're also very close, like that. So in one case, it could be low and being required to push back for no good reason. In another case, someone could have a 15-foot panel 10 feet from their line, which to me seems a bit much. So
Okay.
I'd maybe put some more thought into those. And I mean, I think the other thing I would say is I think the height restriction is a good thing. I've seen some, like when you drive through Brunswick, for example, there's a property that has these two massive ground pedestal mounted systems.
Tracking systems.
Yeah, and they must be 25
They are
or
usually
30
25 feet tall.
tall. So if someone decided to put that, 10 or even 30 or 50 feet from a residential neighbor, that would be, to me, not really a reasonable use. So I was glad to see the height restriction, and I think that made a lot of sense.
I can, if you want, I can share some of the council discussions, how we got there, if you're curious, or
Is the
no.
board
It's
curious,
up to
or do you
you.
want to move on? I mean,
I think what's most important is that the council is considering
Yeah,
all of these
I
things.
agree.
I don't need to hear what their process is, but I'm grateful that you're considering them, and I think it's
Yeah.
appropriate.
And I'll bring these thoughts back to our next discussion.
yep, sounds good. All right, we'll keep moving on. Picked the pen that doesn't work, there we go. Okay, next up is new business. This is a sketch plan review of Morgan Meadows subdivision. This is a request by 519 Morgan Meadows LLC, represented by Caleb Hewlett, for planning board sketch plan review of a proposal to create 4 lots on his 25.45 plus or minus acre property at the end of Morgan Meadow Drive off Totten Road at tax map 57 lot 23-81 in the rural, residential, and agricultural zoning district. This proposal is subject to subdivision review. Hopefully I got your name correct.
You did.
All
Thank
right.
you.
So, welcome. So you're at the podium, let us know your name, and you can give us a quick overview of what you're looking to do.
All right. My name is Caleb Hewlett. I own the property at the end of Morgan Meadow Drive off of Totten Road. Currently, I have 1 building permit approved with a occupancy permit, but I'm looking to split the lot into 4 lots. And at this point, I think we are in a process of deciding. Initially, based on the definitions, we thought it would be a minor subdivision submittal, but now there's been some verbiage discovered that may just look to see if it turns it into a major subdivision. And wanted to get the board's input on some of those pieces, and also go over the sketch plan, obviously, for what I have designed by the engineering company. I think, does everyone have a copy of the? Okay.
We do. Yeah.
And I do have some additional information that, I don't know if you would like it, but I do have the proposed road design, and also a slightly updated design that just includes the net residential density. If you want that now, or I can submit it before the next meeting.
I would probably say if it's detailed type stuff, just submit it before the next
Okay.
meeting. We typically try not to take new information at the meeting because we don't have time to properly consider it.
Okay. I just brought it just in case because
Yep.
I had it, but if
Yep.
anything, any questions came up regarding it, so. I guess other than that, should I go line item on?
Let's, so usually what I do, just to save time, is I follow the planner's memo, just so we don't spend a lot of time on things that everyone agrees on, essentially. So maybe hold off from that, and I'll ask Kristen if she had any additional project context that she wanted to share before we get started.
Sure, I think the piece that came up that Kayla mentioned, the minor versus major, is typically something that's pretty straightforward for the planner. I did get some legal input on this, and the town attorney advised that he was taking a stricter reading of this as, even though it's only 4 lots, that because it has some street construction that he'll need to do, that it would bump into being a major subdivision. Because the definition of minor is where there is no street construction. So I am basically bumping this to the board, looking for your input to make the call, because you have that authority in the ordinance about whether you want to go minor versus major. This one really is kind of on the line because it's 4 lots and the bulk of the road exists. So looking for your input there. You have the attorney's input and the definitions on page 3 of the memo. If you do go with the major, there are obviously waivers that you could approve or consider when this comes to preliminary. And there are potentially some of these elements that you might be able to weigh in. I know this is not a time to review waivers, but
Right.
Caleb's looking for some guidance on what you're going to want to see from him regarding the ones that you have some leeway with, which I tried to outline here, particularly on page 4, and go into some of those where you could maybe speak to those tonight. That's what we were hoping to get from the board tonight for this applicant, was some feedback on how you want to handle his review.
Okay. So, yeah, as I looked through your memo, and I'm looking through it again, I'm just thinking about how we want to go through this, because there's a lot of staff comments, more than we would typically get at like a sketch plan type stage. I'm not sure we need to go through all of that and all the detail now.
Yes, some of it's related to him trying to get some feedback early on in
Yeah,
the process of how
right.
you want to handle some
Yep.
of these questions.
So the feedback, you obviously want some guidance from us on minor versus major. What are the other items, just before we get started, that you're looking for direction from us on?
I think that's really the majority at this point, because I brought everything from the engineering firm based on a minor subdivision classification. The road has already been built to accommodate the road frontage for the already approved and occupied dwelling. Only 3 of the 4 lots will be built on. So I originally went into this seeing it as a minor subdivision, and I already have all the pieces to submit for that. But if extending that piece of road that's already been extended then turns it into a major subdivision, then I have to go back and kind of completely do everything with the engineering firm.
Okay.
Because basically everything, like Kristen had said, all of the guidelines for minor subdivision were met, other than that terminology on new road or new street.
Right.
And extending the previously existing road.
Okay. So my take on the memo then is that's kind of the first signpost, because which way we decide will kind of set what we either do or don't need to talk about. So I think maybe we could start there, and I can poll the board on their thoughts. I think my take would be that it would be a major subdivision, but with opportunity to have sensible waivers and things that make sense. But I think it probably makes more sense to start at the major, as the attorney advises, and then we don't typically grant a lot of waivers, but this is probably a case where there can be some that, make perfect sense. I'm not sure I would start it being a minor. That's my initial thought.
Mr. Chair?
Sure, whichever one of you would like to.
I would say the thing that pushes me towards that same direction, in addition to the fact that our town attorney advises us to go down that path, which we generally really defer to our town professionals a lot, is the fact that one of the triggers is the development of road, even though it's an extension and it's not going to be paved, it still is impervious, and there's this whole big swath of wetlands, which I think influence how we want to look at it, and if we choose minor, then our hands become tied on some things that we might find as we get further into it, that we're like, ooh, wow, that's important and we want to address it. So I think I am also more open to waivers than we might otherwise be, given that it is on the cusp, but between the town's attorney's advice and the lay of the land here, I'd be inclined to go the major direction with perhaps a gentler eye on some of the waiver requests. Recognizing you did have direction, and I appreciate that, and yeah, anyway.
Okay, thank you. Jenya?
Well, it's not just dwellings, it's ADUs too. So like how you will look on it from the perspective of ordinance, like is it really two houses? We have duplex, so like 4 dwellings, or in reality it's 8 dwellings?
I've got that's a
As
separate
ADU
topic.
By the
right?
ADU definition, no, just
yeah.
I'm wondering about that part too.
No, I was also going to bring that up, but let's cover that separately.
Okay.
I have a question.
Sure.
Does the subdivision trigger is based on lots, not dwelling units?
Well, so I'm going to ask Kristen
Oh,
to speak
okay.
to that. And
All right,
I've-
I'm jumping into it, sorry.
Yeah, sorry, yeah. Well, I had some feedback for council, potentially, depending on what our new understanding is after we hear about this, but I kind of wanted to keep that separate,
Okay.
if we could. So, Jenya, your thoughts on minor versus major?
I'll say start with major.
Okay. So I think that's the guidance then. We'd like to start with major, recognizing that you're sort of on the balance, and I think, we're not gonna try and hold you to the highest standard of a, highly impactful major subdivision. So I think I guess my message is will be reviewed as a major, and we're going to do our best to work with you to keep it as straightforward as possible.
My concern is the wetland too, like culverts will be needed, so study will have to be done on it, I'll say.
Yeah.
Yep, and in regards to that, the engineering firm has already determined that the amount of disturbed area and all of that does not fall within any DEP required other than the permit by rule.
That's good.
So they've already done the road design and the minimum stormwater for that, and
Okay.
thought they took it to the extent necessary because none of the wetlands have been disturbed or encroached upon or whatever in that sense, other than one culvert placement, but so just because of that piece of road, it will be viewed as that, correct? As the major, sorry. I know I'm kind of bouncing around.
Yeah. So, well, because of what the town attorney advised with the additional building of the roadway, we'll take the position to start as a major. And what I would recommend is, if you do have waivers that you're going to request, if you start with including some justification.
All of that information.
Don't just give us a line item that you're requesting waivers to A, B, C, D, and E, because we're going to come back to you and ask you why you think you need them. So if you start with why you need them, it'll help that whole process
Okay.
go more quickly.
Yep, understood.
Okay. So with that behind us, is it so you've got some stuff in here, Kristen, on the soil surveys, soil information test pits. Or is it too early to dig into any of this and provide any guidance, or?
I think some of this was to bring it to your attention and to
Yeah.
the applicants. So we didn't have the NRA and RD at the time when we did up the memo.
Which I have now,
We-
but.
Which we have now.
yeah.
Yep. So when you, and the requirement for the certified soil scientist rather than just a licensed site evaluator, I just wanted to call that out. And there were some test pit logs that found groundwater at less than 15. And so we would need some different test pits. And we can go through all these details, but it was just kind of,
Yep.
these were kind of heads up issues and
So
things we can.
for now, it's information for the applicant to work through. You don't need feedback from us.
On those, no.
I
Okay.
did have a quick question
Sure.
regarding the soil scientist versus the site evaluator and why that was necessary, where all the subsurface wastewater disposal permits are approved from site evaluators.
That is a piece for it's specific to subdivision, and it's in the ordinance. I know that was a piece, that was something that Doug worked on with our engineer at the time when it was written, related to their level of expertise. I can get more information on that
Okay.
for you when we talk
Because
about it.
the firm asked for the same thing, because they obviously do these a lot, but he was just curious for the same reason.
Yep, yeah, I can follow up with you on that.
Okay, thank you.
And then you have lots of notes on road construction. Is there anything here that you need from the board at this time, or are these, again, more informational, anything we can work through?
I think one of
Between-
the things that might be helpful for board input regarding the road would be, and I will state here, given your question about ADU, we do have legal input that ADUs do not count toward the road standard because they are an accessory use of the building. So that's on your radar. The question that I had for the board here related to how to handle the application, the traffic count that's provided is related to what Kayla's proposing right now. There are several other lots that use Morgan Meadow Drive, and per my read, those can be included in the traffic study, should the board choose to view it that way. There are several lots on here that are not in subdivision. Like there's effectively a subdivision out front on Taunton Road, then there's a few lots, and then he's gonna be creating a new subdivision. So there are gonna be lots in the middle that currently use Morgan Meadow Drive, that contribute to that traffic flow, but aren't part of his calc. So looking to see if you want them to be part of his calculation for your consideration when you look at traffic for this project. That's what's on kind of the bottom of page 5 of the memo.
Well, I mean, it's cumulative, obviously, but,
Yeah, the state law does allow you to consider previously created lots for like stormwater, traffic impacts like that, should you choose to do so. And that's one of the things I think would be helpful to have an answer on for the applicant at this stage.
so can you clarify the question you're asking the board?
Do you want to ask the applicant to include the other lots that use Morgan Meadow Drive as their access as part of his traffic figures for your consideration? Or just the ones that he's creating?
So it's an interesting question, I guess. Are the other lots their own subdivision, or
No.
they're just
This was a-
lots on a road?
We did some research on this one. It took some sorting out, but where we landed was that this piece is being subdivided on its own. There are 3 lots out front that were part of the Climax subdivision, and then there are, I believe, 3 that are not considered to be in subdivision.
Okay. if I have a, have a good answer on that one. Does the town have a recommendation or a desire? I mean, why would, I guess on one hand, why would we do a traffic study for like 3, 4 lots essentially?
I'm not talking about a
right?
traffic study. I don't think his project rises to the level of a traffic study. It's just the counts, like the average
the count,
daily,
yeah, yeah.
average daily trips or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
Should it
Sorry, I
incorporate
didn't-
those other
I
3
didn't intend
lots?
to use the wrong
Yeah.
terminology, but,
And he has provided those figures, but they're for his project
Yep.
solely.
Well, should we consult town engineer and ask him what his opinion will be?
You can, ultimately, it's your call
yeah.
as a board.
I mean, I don't know if I have an informed opinion one way or the other on that.
My thought is that 3 more lots here is probably not going to make a lot of a difference
Right.
for anything, so I wouldn't be inclined to worry too much about it. And I think we could probably, especially since we're going to be having you be under the major subdivision, and we're not giving you that request. I think we could probably be safe, especially since it seems like the town says it's up to us. I would be personally okay with just focusing on the new lots. It's my thought.
Jenya?
Potentially, and like then if lot 3 will be developed, and potentially a big warehouse will go there.
Well, I think that's. Can
Well-
lot 3 be developed for anything other than another residential, or they would have to come back?
If you wanted to
They would have
make that a restriction as part of the review and put it on the face
Come
of
back anyway, I think,
Plan,
with
yeah.
the subdivision amendment.
If it was being subdivided, if it was just one house, it wouldn't.
But per my submittal, there's no dwelling unit planned for it.
Right.
So if I was coming to request that, I guess, and it would cue the whole dwelling units per road standards.
Yeah.
I think it would open up a whole different can of worms that I would have to come back for anyway.
Okay.
As far as I see it. Otherwise, I would probably propose to put one there now,
Yeah,
so.
Mhm.
okay. Well, and also, if you did put one in there, you'd have to build a longer road or you'd have to cross wetlands.
Yeah, I think the buildability of Lot 3 is something we'll probably want to lock down as you go through this part of the approval process. Maybe showing its buildability for having a
Okay.
building envelope for a single-family home
Mhm.
at this point, because it needs to be shown as a buildable lot if you intend it that way. If you wanted to subdivide it further, like Melinda was saying, or put a different use on it, that's a possibility within the zoning. But unless you put restrictions in your covenants for the subdivision that say you can only have a single-family home instead of a warehouse, that's getting into the weeds, but
Okay.
we'll need to get
I'll have
into
them
some of
show
those
it,
for
I'll have them show it the same as the other lots with driveway and right-of-way, and we have plenty of test pit locations already that are suitable and stuff like that, so I can add that to the plan.
Okay, yeah, I think as far as traffic counts, you already have numbers from your engineer for your piece. That seems to make sense to me. I'm struggling to come up with any reason why that wouldn't be good enough, so I think that should be fine.
Okay.
I did have a question before I forget. There's some reference to your planning to, you own the road now, and you're planning once you're done sometime in the future, after you sell lots, to create a road association? Was that your comment or staff comment?
Yeah, I put that in there as, because right now it's just myself and one of the other residents just kind of
So-
doing it piecemeal.
And are the lots on the front of the road part of it, or no, or?
Currently, the front, The front two, the large double lot and then the one in front of that are not part of the road. Their address are on top.
Those have driveways to Taunton Road. Oh, okay.
Those are the original subdivision.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, that's helpful.
And I can,
Yeah, so that's
Well-
probably good to put on the plan. I didn't realize
Oh.
that, so.
Ah.
Those are not, they abut the road, but they
Uh-huh.
don't use it.
I
didn't
see.
realize that.
Oh, gotcha. Oh, yeah, that is important.
yeah, because that obviously affects the,
Well, that's all the
Dwelling
more,
unit piece,
that's all the
yeah.
more reason why we
Yeah.
don't need traffic
Yeah,
counts.
agreed.
Okay, so that's why I wasn't following why people were saying the 3 lots in the front. So they're part of the road maintenance, not part of it, it's,
if their, I mean, if their address isn't on it, then obviously they wouldn't be part of the,
but there's three lots that are on the road and they would be part of the association.
that would be the intent,
Yeah,
yeah.
okay.
Because
But there's-
currently, 2 of the remaining 3 lots are they're under sale, under new ownership, so.
Yeah.
I just thought it made sense for everyone to
So
kind of be.
what happens now, it's just like ad hoc,
Yeah, it's myself and one other that just kind of
okay.
do it as needed and,
So we should probably, typically we document some of that in the application as well. Like, I don't know that we, like, oftentimes we actually have the road association, like, documents put into the application. I don't know that should we, I guess it's an open question whether we should require it here since it hasn't been formed yet, but there should be something at least as to what your intent is and
Yeah, for a
path
private
forward.
road and a subdivision, we do require road association language.
Yeah,
unless I chose to keep ownership and maintain it myself, is that the other option?
Yes, but I think we'd still want language. I think it's
Right,
still in the
if I put that
ordinance.
language in there?
That it would, yeah, that you'd kind
Okay.
of outline formally,
Okay,
I own it, and as long as I own it, I'm gonna do X to it
okay.
in this period of time, and if it gets
It was just
switched over.
it was just a conversation with the neighbor because
Right.
there's other houses changing hands, so he said, hey, do we wanna discuss this at this point, so you and I aren't responsible for everything moving
Mhm.
forward, but yeah, I can figure out that.
Okay,
verbiage
yeah.
When I do the submittal.
Yep. All right. What else do you need our feedback on? I know we talked about this before, about site walks, and we determined we didn't need one. I'll ask the question again. Is everyone, assuming it's the same people, I don't even remember when this was in front of us, but is there anyone that thinks we need a site walk for this?
I don't recall saying no, but I still don't, even so, I don't think that one is needed in this
Yeah.
case.
I don't either.
Well, it's a dirt road.
What's that?
Why do we need a sidewalk?
Yeah.
Just asking, just
Yeah.
offering?
Yeah,
Okay,
no, I
so we
think that's
don't,
good.
we've confirmed we don't need a site walk. Anything else, Kristen, that you wanted to get from us?
Um, I know at one point during the last sketch plan, there was some consideration of potential threshold for considering a waiver for the paving, should the applicant ask for 11 dwelling units. I don't know that you're asking again this time or not. I know the last time the feedback was that you need to show some sort of special circumstance.
Right.
And I don't know if you have something to present at this point again, or if you wanted to touch on that at all. That's-
No, I think at this point, the way it's shown or preliminarily shown is sufficient,
good.
so.
Yep, so that was it, major,
That way,
minor.
so it's that way you count as 10. And the ordinance counts as 10, correct?
Yes, 10 is the threshold for keeping it
Yep.
dirt road. I guess, yeah, it's number 5 on the comments on page 8, the showing building envelopes with the clearing limits, the wells and septics, updated on the plan to show the buildability like we typically see, if there's support for that.
I would say yes.
And number 6, input on the 5% open space set aside requirement.
So,
That was your number 8, Kristen?
Page 8, number 6, there's a provision for a 5% open space set aside in a non-residential open space subdivision, which I assume would be on lot 3 in your project somewhere.
Yeah, because I was going to say, I was assuming that would be for the open space subdivision
It's-
typically, but,
The open space subdivision requires greater space than that.
oh, okay.
But there's either, there's 5% or like a payment in lieu of for a regular major subdivision.
so he just needs to make his decision on that. I mean, what input would we have?
Like where
Oh.
you think it would be best, or if you had any
I mean,
comment
I
on
think,
it. Or if it's
I don't
something
know.
where you don't want to consider a major.
I think he would start with proposing what he wants to do, is my thought, but go
One
ahead.
Question. I see that there's a reference here that Open Space Committee looked at this yesterday. Is there any feedback from them?
Yes, yeah, thank
On
you. We did pull up the property, they did not have feedback. This
Okay.
area of town does not have existing trails or open space to which they wanted to connect. So,
Okay, that's useful,
so no.
thank you.
Okay. Yeah, I don't have anything additional on that one either. I did note that Kristen brought up the garage that you intended, and you may want to put some clarification in there as to its purpose and use and whatnot, like as far as, you know, not becoming a separate, like light industrial use or
Oh.
whatever, so.
No, it was just, and I wanted to, I'll talk with her, because I couldn't quite find exactly where that it specified, but it's just personal on that dwelling
Yeah.
unit, so.
And that would just be a good thing to put on the plan to tie off. Anything else you're looking for from us tonight?
I don't believe so, unless there's any other concerns or remarks regarding the
Okay.
plan that we haven't discussed already before
Okay.
submittal.
Any overall concerns from the board?
Well, again, about the garage, make sure that it wouldn't turn into automobile repair shop one day.
Yeah,
Because that
so,
will change everything.
yeah, so I asked him to define what it is and isn't on the plan, so we should see that next time. So, did I hear something? Oh, so I wanted to bring up the ADU topic. So it was interesting when I was reading the memo that ADUs don't count towards the subdivision
road.
the road limits, which was interesting to me. And I guess you already answered my first question, which is, that was the interpretation also from the town attorney? Is that true? Did I hear it right?
Yes, oh yeah, we
Okay.
asked.
Yeah, okay. That was kind of surprising to me. And I guess that's fine if that's what it is. So my feedback to the council is that, you know, we made this change, which basically allows ADUs to go from something that was like a true sort of family accessory, like in-law, grandparent type of thing, to now
Rental property.
it doesn't need to be owned by the same person. It essentially opens it up to be a separate rental property. And developers enjoy that new flexibility. However, it doesn't make any sense to me that now it also wouldn't be treated as two dwellings for the purposes of road construction. We could theoretically get a application in front of us with 10 single-family houses with 10 ADUs, which is truly up to 20 residents, because it could be rented and a separate family and separate cars and all of the impacts of two dwellings. So
Mhm.
I guess my point in all this is I would ask that to be looked at by the council.
Can I
And
just ask a
maybe-
clarifying question?
Maybe it can't be.
Well, that's, I'm struggling to find something the council can do in that.
Yeah,
The change as far as requiring residency was changed in part because it's virtually impossible to do that. We tried to put together a residency, or not a residency,
Ownership.
but a
Owner occupancy, yeah.
owner occupancy, yes, thank you. Tried to put one together for short-term dwelling units, and it's just almost not feasible. But there are other aspects of the ADU laws that, you know, if you have a single lot, you could put 4 ADUs on that single lot. So from the standpoint of, you know, this particular case, you know, could lot 3, I'm not saying you have any intention of doing this, but just
Mhm.
theoretically, come back and say, I
Right.
want to put 4 ADUs on that lot.
I know there's parking issues
We-
too, that you,
We're not
My
able to
understanding is you
require
can't do
off-stand.
anything about
Yep,
it.
we can't require off-street parking for ADUs.
Yeah.
That's another component.
An ADU has to be accessory to a single-family home,
It does.
so you can't put
It
4
can't be
ADUs.
bigger. We do have some restrictions on
Right.
the size in an attempt to not have them become another single-family home.
so is the initial answer then, the council, you feel or think that you're not able to revise the road standard to incorporate, to
ADUs,
change the way ADUs are counted or not counted?
correct. I don't believe we have that authority. That's our current understanding.
Mhm.
Um,
That answer didn't surprise me, but I wanted to ask.
There, with the ADUs, there's really not a lot of wiggle room there for pretty much the size of the unit is really probably the biggest thing that we have control over, unless I've got that wrong, Kristen.
I think it's size and number.
Yeah.
I mean, you did keep it to 1
Yeah.
as a council.
Okay, thanks. Jenya, I know you also brought it up, so I
Well,
don't know if there was more to it that you were asking.
Most probably dwelling and ADU will have separate CMP accounts.
They cannot,
No, they
Separate
can't.
what?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
they have to
can't have a
share
separate-
utilities, they have to
Yeah.
share the same, you know,
Okay.
heating
That's
and water.
interesting.
and-
Well, that
Yeah.
limits quite a lot.
That's
actually.
one of the ways I
Yeah.
think that it puts a cap on it a little bit.
Okay, I didn't realize that, so that's good to know.
That's actually significant.
Yeah,
Yeah.
All
And,
right.
and same with the septic systems, right?
They're joint.
No, it can have a separate septic system.
Okay, but it has
But the
to-
lot has to be able to, you know,
Handle.
obviously
Handle.
handle that.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Okay. Oh,
and with the
that's-
setbacks and
It's-
everything else.
Sorry.
Sure, go ahead.
I had them on my property in Kennebunk prior and stuff. It's the same size tank, it's just a slightly larger leach field. It's all kind of the same
Yeah,
setup, so.
you have to put in a minimum of a 2-bedroom leach field, even if it's only a
Yeah.
1-bedroom ADU. So
Right.
you end up with a bigger leach field than
Mhm.
you need, but.
yeah.
Well, you can do pre-treatment. There's a lot of other ways to actually cut the size a lot,
Hmm.
like 60%.
But yeah,
So, and water is coming from the same source too?
I'm not the person to ask. I would assume so, but maybe not.
It's on
That
the
one I
big
don't-
book.
I think in simplicity, all the
40279.
utilities are one.
yeah.
Right, that was
Heating,
my,
water, electricity, all that's all one.
that was my
one
assumption,
utility.
but I didn't know that
Mm.
for fact.
Yeah, I don't know I can't answer the water or the internet questions, but I know electrical is definitely a component.
Mm.
Yeah,
It
okay.
has to be the same as the house.
Anything else? Oh, are you,
No, I'm just polite, you could look at it afterward if you'd like.
Okay.
It's fairly complex. I don't have it all memorized, I'm not
Yeah,
done,
yeah.
not yet.
Don't have a chapter and verse.
all right. Anything else on this application then?
I'm
You got what you need for now?
I think so.
All right, we'll see you next time.
All right, thank you very much.
Yep, thanks.
Have a good night.
Okay, so I guess I will entertain a motion of adjournment.
set.
Someone has to make
I
the
moved
motion
it.
first.
I
Oh,
moved
you
it with
did?
my
You were
mind.
so fast that I
Yeah,
didn't even see it?
I didn't get it
So
out
it's
of my
been
mouth.
moved and seconded,
Yes.
all in favor. It's 3-0, so I will close the meeting at 8:01.